Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final arc of our Cincinnati Chronicles World of Darkness anthology. We're with Changeling the Dreaming, a bright and colourful reprieve from Wraith the Oblivion. I'm sure we're all grateful for, as good as that was. Yeah, it feels weird to be getting to the end of this anthology already, but we still have one more arc to go. We still have our changelings to catch up with and our lovely crew to take us on one last tour of the World of Darkness. But before we do that, before we introduce players and characters and get into the good stuff, let's talk a bit of promo. So down below, you will find a number of links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one. Please do check out the other. Give us a follow and a subscribe and bells and notifications and all that good stuff. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not too old to understand all of it. We also have links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. If those things interest you, please check them out. We have a nice little community going on Discord, should you want to join that. As for our schedule, we are currently running 3 systems a week, or we will be as of next week when one of them returns. Mondays is, of course, Monday Night Warhammer with the Monday crew. Tuesdays, as you may have noticed, is Cincinnati Chronicles. We have been on Thursdays previously with this one, but we switched to Tuesdays for this final arc. And then Wednesdays is the return of Symbaroum, or at least it is next week. Our sort of flagship campaign will be returning to the Throne of Thorns epic with the next installment, the Witch Hammer, and that will start next week, which for those of you who are not familiar with calendars and dating systems is the 3rd of August. It is August already in the year of 2022. How awful. We also run one-shots once a month. They kind of slide around the month these days. They used to be on the first Saturday of the month, but now we're a bit more fluid with them. The most recent one was Absurdia, which was run by Pierre, and that's in the process of going up on YouTube right now. And the next one, which will take place sometime during August, is the Teeth one-shot Night of the Hogmen, which does exactly what it says on the tin. So join us for that one. It'll be a lot of fun. So let's start bringing on our players and start talking about their characters, and then we'll get straight into the story. First, we have someone very familiar to most of the people who frequent the channel. It's John. Hi, John.
Hi, Matt.
Are you looking forward to playing Changeling the Dreaming?
Yes.
Lovely, lovely stuff. Well, your character is called Elena. And why don't you tell us about Elena?
Elena is Satyr or Satyr, depending on your particular preference for pronunciation. Apologies to everyone I will annoy by saying the wrong one. But like all Satyrs, she's got a passion for arts and music and dancing and various other untamed passions, but with a particular fondness for art.
Absolutely. It's worth noting, by the way, that if you're coming to this unschooled in the ways of Changeling the Dreaming, we will be trying to kind of talk around the setting within the World of Darkness, but we won't be going into super detail of it. Suffice to say, all for now you need to know is that changelings are kind of half mortal, half fairy beings. They have a shard of the dreaming inside them, the realm, the fantastical realm beyond the one we know, where myth and legend pour from into the poor shackled brains of normal humans who are cluttered by banality and reality in this world of darkness. So yeah, it draws from a lot of different mythologies and legends around the world and batters quite a few of them into submission. So if it's your particular mythology and legend that it does so, well, we didn't write it, but sorry anyway.
Sorry.
Soz. Speaking of someone who might bring that up through the course of these stories, let's bring on fan favorite Chris. They're all fan favorites.
I'm already angry.
Already angry. There we go. Well, Chris, channel that anger into pure role-playing glory and tell us about Inshin.
Yeah, so Inshin is of the Slewer kith. He is from the suburbs in Cincinnati, and upon his kind of decrystallizing, his birth as a changeling has become old before his time and has become a bit of a sage and a bit of a spooky kind of like a gender flip Wednesday Addams. Knows a little bit too much and kind of puts everyone a little bit on edge. In so doing, has managed to get themselves a position within the nobility by doing a couple of favors and digging some people out of some research tasks that they didn't want to do. In physicality, as a entirely androgynous, some kind of teen-year-old, probably. Travels around town with a little backpack full of books, very much kind of a somewhat street rat vibe, and just a little bit creepy.
A little bit creepy. And of course, like I see, Chris is trying to describe a sluar here without ever uttering the word goth, but I'll do it for him. I will do it for him because, yeah, that's them sluar. Also, thank you. I normally don't say stuff from chat necessarily in the middle of this flow, but we got a raid. So thank you for the raid, Night Bites, friend of the channel already. So thank you for that. Now, let's bring on our next player. It's Holly, returning from her absence over Wraith the Oblivion, with, is it Rosin or Roshin?
Rosin.
Yeah, it's not quite the spelling to be Roshin, right, Chris?
Yeah.
I think so. Rosin. Why don't you tell us about Rosin the Pisky?
So I think they'll be the youngest out of everyone in the party, so because they're like only a childling. But as is the case with most pixies, she's a chaos gremlin at heart. So doesn't really know when to keep her hands off stuff, and doesn't really care. Yeah, just out to cause chaos, but is a fairly talented musician, so that gets ignored by those that would invite her to events such as the one tonight.
Wonderful. So it's also worth noting that the appearance of Rosin might change throughout our story because Piskies are wont to start looking like the people around them, to blend in nicely. And finally, last but not least, let's bring on our final player, Inga. Inga is going to be playing Rhea, who is an Eshu. So why don't you tell us all about Rhea, please, Inga?
Yeah, so she is very much Eshu at heart, very much a wanderer. She's currently on a big road trip of the US, I think, and she's stopped in at Cincinnati because there's some fun stuff going on. So yeah, and that's really, I think she's very like amiable and friendly. She likes a good tune, the music. That's for her favored sort of art form as well. So definitely met a couple of these guys at parties and things before. I think she kind of like lives her life by the sort of like say yes mentality. Like she try anything, give it a go, see what happens, and yeah.
Nothing but positive vibes in our initial changeling motley. So similar to our Wraith story, obviously. All brightness and light, that one. I do have to say, I would be amused by anyone watching this from Cincinnati, because while I have never visited myself, though I have been, as regular viewers will know, a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals for a very long time, I have to imagine that most people from Cincinnati will hear the sentence, she stopped off in Cincinnati to have all the fun that can be had there. There will be an outpouring of just what? To
be fair, I think it's a very slow road trip. I think there's a lot of fun to be had wherever.
Sure. Wherever. You just, even in Cincinnati, there is fun to be had. That's the tagline of this series.
Maybe Rhea's just a really big fan of chili, you know? Like,
yeah, Skyline chili, right? Chili and playing cards. Who doesn't like that?
And tigers.
There we go. And tigers, obviously. So there we go. Those are our lovely players. Thank you, John, for the as ever. But if anyone wonders, by the way, this series, a lot of our art all of our art has been produced via Artbreeder, which is an excellent site for that kind of thing. via art breeder, via a lot of lovely retouching by our resident artist John, who made these wonderful portraits look much more changeling with additions and tweaks. So thank you, John. So the beginning of our story, Cincinnati, the city of fountains, and I'll give people a little broader sensibility of the changeling community in Cincinnati. It forms part of the Duchy of Buckeye, which is roughly speaking Ohio, and even further a part of kind of the Concordia, the vast conglomeration of changelings that are united under a high king within America and Canada. Within Cincinnati, it's mainly known for a freehold or a kind of small fairy realm called Fontainebleau, named for the French palace as well as for the city, the fountain city of Cincinnati. And that belongs to Lady Marcella Sorania, a satyr of House Fiona. Many changeling artists and artisans gravitate to this center of creativity located in a wooded part of the city, which within our story will be Winton Woods in northern Cincinnati. And that's more or less where we pick up our story, because all of our players have been invited to court tonight by Lady Marcella. It's one of the many events that occur close to midsummer, and they each received a beautifully folded and crafted paper sealed with the red and silver wax emblem of House Fiona. In exquisitely calligraphed ink was written the date, the venue, and the words, "Be merry." The venue itself, or Fontainebleau, can be accessed via a place called Highfield Discovery Garden, which probably some of you know. At least one of you, Chris, has been to Fontainebleau before. The others of you just know Highfield Discovery Garden. It's like a little park for kids and families. Maybe you've been there before, maybe you haven't. It's up to you. But that seems to be the venue. It's fairly late in the evening on a very hot July day, and a day in which a lot, it has to be said, has gone on in Cincinnati, and which has been noticed probably even by the Kithane residents of the town, who are somewhat distracted from mortal affairs. But the repeating news of explosions at factories and fires at libraries has probably registered even with yourselves. So the entire city seems sort of on edge in that sort of smothering summer heat. But hopefully this party, this court occasion, will be a bit of a reprieve from this. So with that in mind, and I wonder if we can gain some kind of common agreement here and therefore not have to have me roll dice to randomize it. Do we think that any among you would definitely be the most on time or even early? Who do we think out of the four of you would be the first to arrive?
I think in the spirit of being the sooner I get there, the sooner I can leave, I might definitely be in the early envelope.
Sure. Well, then, I'm more than happy for Inshin, or Sir Inshin, right? Inshin is a knight of the court, unlike all the others who are filthy commoners. Inshin, then, I believe we determined that Inshin actually lives quite near Highfield Discovery Park. And therefore,
over in Carthage, so I actually walked here with my little backpack.
How easy to have done so. Well, when you arrive by Highfield Discovery Park, it's on the edge of a rather large part of parkland in northern Cincinnati. And as you're kind of walking down the street, I think you described that you have like a backpack with books in and maybe various sorts of scholarly tools in. You definitely see a couple of, not unusual to your eyes, but definitely Kithane individuals wandering through the open gates to Highland Garden ahead of you. And standing by that garden gate is a sneering redcap, Kithane, known for definitely not known for the even temper and lack of willingness to cause violence. They're wearing sort of punkish attire with torn jeans and a rough beanie cap thrust down so far that their eyes just glitter in the shadow of their beetled brow. They're chewing on what looks like jerky with huge square teeth, but as you approach them more closely, you can see that the jerky is actually just a big flat chunk of wood. Their shirt is a ragged white garment on which they seem to have hand-painted and out come the wolves in vivid red all over it. They're glaring at you, not kindly.
Did the people who went in before me produce their invites, or did they just walk straight by?
They did indeed produce their invites and wave them in front of the red cap.
So I'll kind of walk up and kind of at the last minute kind of take my backpack off and shuffle in, and from it produce a quite nastily crinkled, beautifully calligraphed letter and present it to them.
Sure. The red cap kind of snatches it off you and kind of... Seen you before.
You have trouble tonight?
Why are you going to cause it?
Not me, sir. I'm too small.
Yeah, you are. Barely a mouthful. All right. He kind of stuffs it back towards you, and you grab the invite off him. It's kind of got a bit of pulped wood and saliva smeared on it.
Back in the bag it goes, and back into the compound go I.
Okay. You stride your way into the Highland Discovery Park, and I won't go through. I think I'll wait until you all pass through the gates to describe what is ahead and further in there, because otherwise I'm describing it 4 times, right? Or just for one person, and then the other people feel left out. So who thinks they would arrive perhaps next? And if no one wants to say that, I'm happy to randomize.
If you have a habit of just turning up in the right place, I think Rhea has made some friends who've offered her a ride, and timing has worked out, perhaps.
Sure, absolutely. Well, then you get out of are you like, is it a friend's car, sort of a bunch of people together?
Yeah, and by friends, I mean people she met maybe an hour ago.
Sure, yeah. So not even Kithane, just like people you hitched a ride.
Oh yeah, just people who can drop her off somewhere nearby.
Maybe some college kids or something like that. Yeah. Sure. They wave goodbye to you and your promises of meeting up later, little knowing they will never see you again. But they will always remember you. And you stride out. You see a small, slight, sallow, but aren't they all, Sluar kind of wandering into the gates of the park ahead of you, and the red cap kind of like turning and fixing their eyes on you and just kind of like blinking slightly. It's sort of late evening, by the way. The sun is still up, but it's definitely starting and on its way down.
I think she's got sort of a vaguely flowy cardigan, cape, could be part of a dress, who knows? It's all a bit just flowy, but there's somewhere in there's a pocket out of which emerges the invite to show.
Sure. The red cap sort of again snatches it if it's proffered, and kind of peers down at it, looks back up at you, kind of like with that beanie, just kind of like almost hiding their eyes. Who are you?
Rhea?
I've seen you before.
Oh, I'm quite new to town, really.
Yeah. Smell foreign.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, shoo. All right. I suppose you can go in. But don't be trying none of your stories on me.
I don't think she quite knows what to say to that. She'll just go head on in.
Okay. You wander past into the winding pathways of the Highland Park. And you know what? I will actually describe a little bit of what happens next, because it leads us a bit further on. So let's in fact force the issue here and say that Inshin, one of your books dropped out onto the pathway because you have too many bundled in there entirely. And as you bend down to kind of pick it up and put it back in, like cram it back into your overflowing pack, a figure kind of like paces slightly silently out of the darkness next to you, and maybe offers to help.
Yeah, assuming she spots that. Should. Here you go. Oh, you're right.
Oh, thank you.
This is a lot of books for a party.
It's good, just about enough for a book party, though.
That's true.
You find yourself, by the way, just to describe the Highland Park Discovery Garden for you. As I say, it has winding paths, sort of with crazy paving, leading through big patches of grass. As you walked in, you saw several small model steam trains painted with bright colors, winding through the pathways and even into and out of cultivated openings in trees. To one side of you is a pond with fake plastic lily pads and frogs and toads scattered across the surface of the still water. A small splashing is heard as some kind of creature, potentially chimerical, slips beneath the waters.
You been here before then?
Yeah. I do like the pond, friend. It's just a little bit spooky.
Oh, you must tell me everything about it.
No one knows very much about it.
Even better.
There is a soft burbling behind you as you pass the pond. Maybe the thing in it, maybe not. Who knows? Before long, you come to a denser patch of woodland where most of the trees have small wooden doors placed up against them in their roots and in their knots and among the branches. Occasionally, one has a wooden gnome set beside them, with a permanent grinning wave at passers-by. Doors and gnomes alike are painted in vivid reds and blues and yellows. Once you reach the center of these denser trees, there is a huge tree made of molded plastic, a gurning face shaped into it like a children's Halloween decoration. It's bedecked in white fairy lights, and there is a chunky plastic door set in its open mouth. It is ajar and tall enough that any but the tallest of mortals or Cathane only have to crouch slightly to enter.
Despite the materials, I do love the tradition, don't you?
I'll wait for Inshin to.
I'm assuming I've got the symbolism right, and we got to go in the tree.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to Fontainebleau before. You know how to go in. So yeah, you go into the big plastic Halloween tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As you step towards it and are about to kind of enter, for a moment you kind of have to stand back as a figure emerges from it, hunched over and making a kind of discomforted sound, like a disapproving sound. Is a figure who kind of unfurls himself as he comes out to quite a tall height. He is a slender, somewhat waifish she with beautiful, long, straight blonde hair, pale skin, and cold grey eyes. He's dressed in a mix of dark red, purples, and blacks, and is clearly wearing chimerical armor under the soft velvets and silks. You note that he isn't sweating at all in the very hot night air, despite this heavy clothing. Are you kind of like, how much are you getting out of the way of this individual as he comes out of the tree? I think we may have lost Chris. But Inga, how much are you getting out of the way?
Yeah, should just get straight out of the way and just wide-eyed have a little look. But I mean, I think also maybe be kind of slightly torn between also a quick peek back at the whatever this creature was under the water.
Sure.
Curiosity torn in many directions.
Do I recognize this gentle fae?
Yeah, you know what? Let's have a roll to see if you do. Why don't you roll me maybe intelligence plus politics for courtly matters, maybe? And you can make it as a standard roll.
That's a lot of dice, yet only one success.
You don't know his name. You recognize him, and you also are well aware that in the past you've people murmur about him in hushed whispers as he passes by. The hushed whispers do not sound pleasant. I think Chris is with us, just not moving. So, Chris, have you also moved out of this individual's way?
Yeah, I'll get out of his way.
Sure. He doesn't spare the slightest glance for either of you as he walks past with a purpose and off towards the main entrance to the Highland Discovery Park, where we find the third person to arrive. So, Holly, John, which of you do you think are next?
I think I'll go. I'm usually, it doesn't do to be too late because then you miss the beginning of the party, basically.
Sure, and you miss more opportunity to party.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely. Well, Elena, how are you arriving at the Highland Park?
I think I'd probably get a taxi.
Sure.
Actually, no, I quite like walking, and I'm a very fast walker. So I think I'd get a bus to nearby, and then probably a leisurely sprint over.
Sure,
the
yeah.
final bit.
I mean, in ways, a trot, right?
Yeah.
Since with those hairy legs. So, yeah, you find yourself at the entrance to Highland Discovery Park fairly swiftly. As you're walking along the pathway towards the entrance, you see the figure, the slender, imposing she who I described, kind of coming out of the entrance and walking past the red cap. The red cap, kind of in a slightly impertinent tone, looks up at the she and snarls, "Leaving early, my lord?" The she slowly turns to them and fixes them with a cold stare. The red cap stares back, then blinks and flutters their eyes in surprised subservience before averting their gaze downwards. The she turns away and leaves, walking to a really quite expensive-looking Japanese motorbike, which they, don a helmet, turn it on, and rev it and speed away into the night. Actually, what am I talking about? They don't put a helmet on.
Yeah, fair enough. Wait, are people already leaving? Is it almost over? I thought it was just starting.
No, they're not almost leaving. Are you fucking stupid?
One of them
him.
just left.
It's just him. It's just him. You don't worry about that. It's fine.
Who was that?
Don't you tell anyone about what you just saw. I'm not scared of him. I'm not scared of nobody.
Of course you're not.
Give me your invite.
Hand it over.
Fine. He barely looks at it and just throws it back at you.
Who was that?
Never you mind. Get on in.
All right.
He kind of snaps his teeth at you with a very loud clacking noise. As you go nearby to kind of hurry you along.
It works.
Sure, absolutely. So you wander through the Highland Park in the same fashion. You see the little trains, you see the pond, you see the little kind of laid out gnome trees. We all got that those were not real gnomes, right? It's laid out like that for the mortals as well as for the Cathay. Yeah, just wanted to make sure in case anyone was so many gnomes. And you similarly find yourself at the same tree, and I'm going to assume you go through it in a similar fashion.
Yes.
Okay. Holly, how late is Rosing?
Not too late. I think
Okay.
she probably got the same bus as Elena, who got distracted in the park. So she'll skip along up to the gate a little bit afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah. Looking slightly bedraggled. She probably like went in a bush somewhere to like grab some blueberries or something.
Absolutely. Maybe like some blue stains.
Oh yeah,
sort
yeah.
of.
Oh yeah.
Well, the red cap is there, and he just kind of like stares at you and kind of shakes his head slightly as he sees you like skipping up.
So she's just going to dig a. So she's holding a flute and a tambourine, and she's just going to like stand next to him, put the tambourine on the floor, dig a hand into some striped purple trousers that she's wearing with a green and black waistcoat, and dig out the invitation that's got a sweet wrapper stuck to it, and then just like hand it up to them.
Sure. The red cap kind of grabs it and looks at like the state of it, peels the sweet wrapper off. Oh. Yeah. He kind of bends down quite close to you. He's not particularly tall, but I'm guessing you're far smaller.
Yeah, I'm pretty small. Yeah.
And he kind of thrusts the invite in your face and says, "I know your face now. Don't you be causing no trouble."
I'll try not to.
Yeah. He kind of pushes the invite like so it's like sort of crumples a bit against your face as he kind of like hands it back to you.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll pick up the tambourine and I'll skip on into the gates.
You hear him kind of as you kind of go onwards. Again, you make your way through the park, seeing all there is to be seen there. Make your way through the tree. It sounds like maybe you're not too far behind Elena, so maybe you arrive at roughly the same time. And either way, as a group, I'm just going to describe what it's like passing through there and into the freehold. So once through that plastic door in the center of that huge plastic tree, you find yourself, after a few steps in the darkness, emerging into a long avenue of carefully clipped trees. Ahead of you is a gravel path leading to what looks very much like a centuries-old French chateau. It is ringed on all sides by huge, elaborate fountains, among which Kithane and their chimerical companions laugh and talk softly in the balmy evening air. There are some tents scattered around with various sounds coming from within them, performances and art displays and other such things. Among all the Kithane, the Lady Marcella and her favoured nobles are very noticeable as she strides through the crowd in a billowing, mostly translucent dress of coppery silk. I'm going to say I'm perfectly happy for Inshin and Rhea to be kind of halfway along this path, and Rosen and Nelina just kind of a bit further behind them, so not too far from each other, all told.
Assuming like you kind of can hear anything, you turn around, I might recognize them and be like, "Oh, Elena, Rosen, you've got to go. Have you met Inshin? He's just telling me about this amazing book party idea. It sounds amazing. Have you been to a book party before? Elena throws the best parties. Have you been to one of Elena's?"
You know, I think I have been to a book party. I think, well, the books kind of got forgotten about halfway through, but there were books at the beginning.
Brilliant.
It worked out great. I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah, if the books have pictures, I'd like that as well.
It's nice to meet all of you.
You're just going to see Roshan like waving from like, because I'm imagining you're quite tall.
So I'm actually reasonably tiny.
Oh, okay. Still just like waving at you then.
Eleanor is quite tall, so I imagine Russian just like tucking under her elbow or something. Did you see that really cool looking tall fellow with the motorbike? You probably didn't see the motorbike. It was a very good motorbike.
It was very loud.
Bad rumors follow that one.
Who is it?
Oh, really?
Tell me more.
It wouldn't be polite. We are here to make merry. As instructed, so delivered. I will do a little mock salute.
All right, later then.
And make merry you can in whatever manner you choose, really. There's all these tents set up with various things to do and see. It does seem very shortly after you arrive that audiences are being walked through one by one with Lady Marcella. It seems that everyone's name is being called out to go for audience. And at this point, I would also like an extra thing to be talked about among the group, which is... Inshin will know this already, but it is quite customary, if Lady Marcella invites you to her court, that you bring a gift for Lady Marcella. So, I am happy for you to make the decision about whether you would have done this or would even know about it, or equally, I'm happy to give you a roll you could make to know this. Inshin will definitely know this. Inshin has been to court before. And when I say gift, I don't mean like an expensive thing, or a pricey or fancy thing. Lady Marcella, from what everyone knows of her, would appreciate creative things, things with meaning, things with a brightness to them, things, it needn't be something pricey or even hard to find. And it's not like you'll be thrown out if you don't have a gift, but it would be a little uncouth. So with that in mind, and with you thinking desperately about those gifts and whether you have them or not, does anyone want to make a roll to see if they'd have known that? It's up to you. Sure. Can you give me a roll of intelligence plus etiquette, please? Difficulty 7. It's a fairly customary thing among Catane, so not a good roll. Not a good. Oh, 1. Yeah. You'd know. You'd know you're meant to, kinda. So it's up to you whether you have.
Yeah, I only had 1 dice on that, so that was.
That's a good roll then. Okay, but with that in mind, why don't we have some indication? What would people like to do at court? What would they like to do at this party?
I am somewhat distraught at rumors that one of my favorite places in Cincinnati has been burnt to the ground.
Sure.
And will perhaps be kind of trying to gather information subtly, because I don't have...
Cool. Chris, you might want to turn your cam off. Because it has on occasion helped Chris before when he has these connection issues. So we might have to go camless with Chris tonight.
Sorry, you missed me there. Can I? What can I roll to extract some delicious news?
Oh, information about the library. Yeah, I was also saying, do you want to try and go camless as well? I don't know, or turn your quality of your cam down, because it's looking quite good at the moment, but maybe it needs to come down.
Thanks.
I'll
take a look at dropping the quality.
Yeah. To find out gossip about the library, absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a manipulation plus I don't know what socializing really is. Manipulation plus etiquette roll, I guess. How's that sound?
Missed that. Sorry, very bad satellites.
Sorry,
tonight.
yeah, it's manipulation plus etiquette. Let's say.
That's pretty terrible. Actually, it's 5. That's actually great. Oh, 4. 4 successes. Pretty
damn good. You know what? You don't talk to them directly, but you find yourself overhearing a much older Sluar whispering to a couple of compatriots. Of course, whispering, because Sluar can only whisper. In like behind fountain, kind of a little bit away from the brightness and the noise, away from everyone else. And you kind of lurk behind on the other side of the fountain, kind of listening to them, leaning into each other. Of course, you know what they say of the library, of the spirits within there, those long gone. Apparently they were pulled forth. Chaos reigns in the Shadowlands tonight, my friends. Another Sluar goes, perhaps it is time to... No, that can wait. Patient is the mother in her web. You have no idea what they're talking about. And honestly, they're elder Sluar. You probably don't want to know what they're talking about.
Yeah, fair. Other than that, I'm just going to try and stick with this little ragtag group unless I'm needed for something courtly.
Sure, absolutely. How about someone else? Has anyone else got anything immediately in mind?
I'm looking for marks.
Sure, absolutely. And we'll come back to you later because I knew someone would say something like that. And I have something in mind. John, Inga, anything from you two?
I'm torn, but I think my first impulse, I don't know if there's much of a dance going, but I'm probably going to either join in or try and get one going.
Sure. There
It
isn't
seems fairly
too much.
Yeah, from your description, it sounds fairly sedate at the moment. My
Yeah,
intention
it
is
is.
to change
It's kind
that.
of calm. You know, it'll probably pick up a bit later. You do hear some music coming from a nearby tent. Would that draw your interest?
Yeah.
Sure. You enter into said tent and you find yourself with quite an unusual artistic display. In the corner are a number of individuals playing various instruments. You see a fiddle and a flute and some unusual, unfamiliar looking percussive item. And in the center of the tent, it's sort of dominated. These are very big sort of marquee tents, by the way. It's dominated by a very, very large tank of seawater in which two selkies are swimming. Swimming might be a sort of diminutive for what they're actually doing. They're performing some kind of aquatic dance. They happily swim around in synchronized patterns, weaving through each other and occasionally switching between their seal form and their kith seeming. After a short while of watching this and enjoying the music, they remain as kith and discard their seal skins. Underneath, they are not wearing anything, and the dance only starts to get more risque from that point. Not a few Kithane loosen their collars somewhat and make their excuses, but quite a few remain. It's worth noting that not a single satyr has moved 1 inch. I'm assuming you can be put in that category.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
I think once I'm here and seeing it as a display rather than a group dance for now, I'm actually going to take my sketchbook out of my satchel and try, because selkies are rare in Cincinnati.
Yeah, they are.
And this is a very good dance.
Very inland. So
I want to try and get
Absolutely.
some.
For anyone curious about the propriety of such things, there is a beefy troll near the door who, if the likes of Rosen and Inshin try and get in, will definitely steer them away. Ria, how about you? Any kind of looking at the arts and crafts or...
Yeah, I think she'll probably she's decided she's making a new friend of Inchin this evening, so I think she'll broadly stick with him, maybe kind of encourage him if he's trying to like get a bit of info, you know, encourage him to sort of work the room a little bit, you know, finding new few people, and kind of maybe steer a little bit towards where there's maybe some other kind of displays and things to kind of check out. I think the main thing she'll want to do is maybe once the party gets a bit more raucous, then maybe there'll be
sure.
I don't know whether like maybe not exactly this, but some truth or dare type games. Maybe a bit more dangerous with changelings than sort of normal context. But if there's anything like that where there's a bit of a dare kind of thing, then but yeah, I think that's probably a bit later on in the party. So I think for the time being, she'll kind of work the room a bit and
sure, absolutely.
Got intrigued enough by Inchin's little library mystery.
Sure. Well, the two of you can definitely, like, if you happened upon, say, a kind of arts and crafts tent, would that be a place where you'd head in and kind of take a look at things going on, or? Yeah. In that case, you find a tent full of arts and crafts of various kinds, from the mundane to the truly transcendent, weird clockwork things buzz around overhead, while a pissed-off-looking knocker sits in a battered lifeguard high chair, tending to them and smoking a huge cigar. He is answering questions from others reluctantly and with a great deal of seeming begrudging attitude. Elsewhere, there's a troll blacksmith showing off her delicate seeming but remarkably strong silversmithing, and a happily weeping sluagh weaving together ephemeral gowns and waistcoats of spider silk, and all sorts of other things besides. Is there anything in particular you'd seek out or be interested in among all this?
I think like we won't like be trying too hard to like distract Inshin from his inquiries. It's just as long as we can do so, you know, nearby where there's something to kind of admire.
Yeah, absolutely. Inshin, anything in here pique your fancy?
I don't know. I'm drawn somewhat to the Sluagh Weaver, so I might go and just kind of in silent appraisal.
Sure.
Watch the process, maybe get a little bit enchanted by it.
She's maybe kind of like an older, wilder, and is crafting these arts. She has like a sort of weaving frame, but it doesn't have kind of what you'd normally expect. It is just covered in spider webs with small creepy crawlies scuttling around inside it. Ever so often she kind of strokes a little bit and whispers encouragement to them. She sees you watching Inshin and turns to you, kind of, as I say, sort of weeping quite happily as she's tending these spiders and weaving her gowns, and says, "Oh, young one, would you like one of these beautiful waistcoats made for you?"
I would only ruin such a thing.
Oh, things are made to be ruined. Everything fades, little one. There is a beauty in that.
What? How does one pay for this kind of thing? Is this beyond my?
Probably
kind of
beyond your means to afford, yeah. I mean, within changeling circles, with favors, with dross, which is kind of glamour made. It's kind of similar to the Obolian Wraith, right? It's glamour made solid that you can use, and is used frequently as currency. You know, treasures, whatever, really. But they look pretty expensive.
Yeah, this all seems a little too beautiful for my subtle means.
Well,
oh no! Don't put yourself down, Inshin. Go for it.
She speaks true. There is something in each of us, even if it be something horrible. But horrible can be special as well.
I cannot refuse such an offer. Fine then, give me your cheapest knickknack.
Very well. She reaches round and kind of brings out and passes over like this kind of gossamer spider silk waistcoat. It looks like it will fit you, but it looks like it'll probably fall apart in a high wind as well. And she says, what say you this fine garment for perhaps a pick of the books in that backpack of yours? Only one. I will take but one tome.
Ooh. Now, can I agree to this, but sleight of hand it so she's unlikely to pick out my treasure, which is in there?
Sure, absolutely. Well, why don't you give a roll for that? Why don't you give us a dexterity plus subterfuge roll? Or wits plus subterfuge. I think either counts.
I'm happy with dexterity, but I have no subterfuge because I put all my points into streetwise. But here we go.
Sure.
One success. 2 successes. Apologies.
Okay. Yeah, you managed to bundle your treasure down at the bottom of your bag. So she doesn't notice that. She kind of looks through and occasionally kind of like wiping her eyes with a small kind of black lace handkerchief. She looks through and pulls out And you know what? I just Googled the name of this because I couldn't remember it, but it's I just thought, well, what's the most goth book of the 90s? And she pulls out a copy of Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Bright, and sort of says, "Oh, this will do. This can go to the collection." And turns around and kind of tucks it just underneath the table that she has a lot of her display on. We may have lost Chris again, I'm afraid. So there we go. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, though, one of you is going to get your name called for an audience with the lady. And that name, my friends, and watch this be Chris now. It is not Chris. As you exit that tent, you hear a voice, and you haven't seen who's calling these voices, calling these names at all. Like, you haven't seen any announcer or chancellor or what have you kind of calling out individuals. But over the top of the hubbub, you hear Rhea of the Eshu.
Yeah, turn around and make a very quick excuse to Inchin and go towards where I'm being called, I guess.
Absolutely. And while we do that, I think we've got a second Chris here at the bottom. Lovely.
Right.
Chris, there we are.
Really bad night for satellites tonight.
Yeah. Do you want to turn your cam off? I think it might be necessary, unfortunately. Or let's at least see if it helps. Lovely. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, Rhea, you head over. The Lady Marcella, as I think we mentioned very early on, is a satyr. She's wearing that kind of billowing, translucent copper dress. She's maybe looks to be maybe in her mid to late 30s. But you've heard tell that she's been lady for quite a long time here. But changelings who spend a lot of time in freeholds don't really tend to age like normal people do. So maybe that's the rationale behind it. She is quite exquisitely, gobsmackingly beautiful, with very kind of soft, luxurious looking. Her dress matches her coloring very much. She has very coppery skin, long, curled, and slightly oiled black hair. And as you approach, she sort of turns away from a number of laughing courtiers and says, "Ah, Rhea, I believe, of the Eshu," and kind of holds her hand out towards you in a kind of, proffers her hand, essentially.
I think Rhea probably would be familiar, although Inga the player is not. Would this be a sort of, take the hand? Is it? I'm presuming this is more about kiss the ring or versus a handshake.
Yeah, or you could kiss the ring or touch your forehead to it. Yeah. Some form of a kind of gesture of affectionate subservience, as it were.
Yeah. So I think yes, forehead, just sort of touch something like that. I think probably something along those lines. And I don't know if it's a sort of wait until answering a question or whether it's sort of okay to proffer.
No, you can, very high nobility, you'd have some kind of precise courtly etiquette. But at this, ladies and lords at the levels they are who rule over, say, a freehold or a city as Marcella does, it's a little bit more informal. So not necessarily that, but you don't need to worry about how to address the lady, because she immediately, as soon as you sort of have done with your genuflection, says, "My darling, it is lovely to see you here, a visitor in the Fountain City, with much to tell of your travels, I am sure."
Yes, my lady, I offer a gift, and this idea came to mind. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that would be really appropriate or not, but what I thought I might offer is kind of like a travel journal of for Rhea, where she's been, but every place she goes, she writes a little haiku.
Okay, yeah.
Capture the spirit of the place, with the last entry being Cincinnati, obviously where she is at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, why don't you give me a wits plus expression roll to see how good this is?
All right, this is a lot of dice, so hopefully it's okay. This is we'll see. This is just oh gosh, oh no. Oh no. I'm not a very good haiku writer. So out of 2, 4, 6, out of 7 dice that I rolled there, I have a 7 and 3 1s, and then others that are under the success rate.
Sure. So it's not a botch at least because you rolled a success, but it is kind of a
well, 1 success and 3 1s. Does that not?
Well, the ones cancel out the success, but because you got a success at all, it's not a botch at least, but it is like a failure. She kind of takes the book off your hands and kind of opens it slightly and says, "Oh, well, how I very much applaud any attempt at creativity, my darling. Thank you so much." And she kind of passes it to a sort of pisky next to her, who takes it and kind of opens it and looks through and goes and tucks it into like a little, essentially like a sack of presents nearby, like carefully. You know, they're not just thrown in there. She says, "And how are you finding the Fountain City so far?"
Oh, it's been lovely. I was only going to stay here for 1 night, but I think it's been maybe about 2 weeks already. Just there's always something new to see.
An enthused visitor. That is always lovely to see. Cincinnati is not the city it once was. It was once said to be the Paris of America. I like to think some element of that still remains. A spirit that runs through it, of art and life. I'm sorry, I am likely boring you. Feel free to continue to mingle, and I hope you enjoy our stay here.
Absolutely. Far better than Paris so far in my book.
She kind of reaches out and sort of traces a little down the side of your face and says, "Oh, darling." A couple of courtiers nearby sort of titter slightly at your perhaps over exaggerated compliments. Not horribly and cruelly, but they certainly maybe considered it a little over the top.
And she'll wander back off if she's been gestured.
Absolutely. So, Holly, Rosin, so you're trying to find trouble, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So you said you're trying to find a mark, so you're kind of looking around for someone who looks a bit who you can trick or play some kind of joke on or steal something from or whatever, right? Yeah, sure. As you're kind of wandering among these much taller, generally Kithane, and kind of looking around, you see a few vulnerable pockets. You see a few sort of people who are maybe a little bit too tipsy already, a few stuffed shirts that could use knocking down a peg or two. And just as you think you're about to start narrowing down your choice of victims, you're kind of looking between them, and a face just kind of juts by your side, a rather twitchy, intense face with a pair of deer's antlers spread out above them. It is a puka, and they say to you, "Can you give me a hand? I need some help."
Oh, okay. Yes, I can help you. I need these hands, you know.
And whatever you're doing won't be as good as what I want to do.
Okay, I'm game. Okay.
The individual kind of says, I'm Whitetail.
Hi, I'm Rosin.
Sure. Over there, you see that boggin? The one with the tight waistcoat, and the tight trousers, and the silly little hat. You do indeed see a boggin matching this description.
Yeah?
Well, now, I've got a plan. It's a 3-step plan. The first part is that we lure him away from his friends with the promise of a romantic tryst. I have a letter I have constructed for just this occasion.
What's a tryst?
You don't need to ask your parents. The point is, it's a way to lure him away. The last step in this plan is he goes in that fountain over there. As I say, it's a 3-part plan. I don't necessarily have the middle part planned out. Step 1, lure him away. Step 2. Step 3, fountain.
I mean, he could chase me and trip over something.
So maybe I get that letter to him, and then he reads it and goes, I am intrigued, for I am a stuffed shirt who cheats on my wife. And then, when he is promised this allure, you steal the letter and run away with it, before he has time to read the fictitious details of the tryst I have promised him.
That sounds nice.
You run near the fountain, I trip him over, he goes in, everyone laughs. Win-win.
I am excited for this.
All right. Well, why don't you go over there and lurk behind him? Try not to be bothered too much by the smell. And I will make sure this gets to him somehow.
Okay, I'll do that.
I like your enthusiasm, kid. You've got a future in this business.
Yeah, Rosin's going to look very pleased with herself. Like, take out another sweet and then just, like, topple over.
You go over near this boggin. You do look a little out of place because the people around here, they definitely look like nobles. Kind of the boggin is dressed up all fancy, as are the other individuals he's talking to you. Are you making any attempt to sort of stay out of sight a little bit, or blend in, or?
Yeah, I'll try and blend in a little bit. But I am fairly small, so I'm imagining that they won't be paying too much attention.
Sure. Well, if you're blending in a little bit, why don't you give me I don't know. Let's say a manipulation plus. Oh, that's a good question. Let's go with manipulation plus alertness. To like sort of.
Okay.
That's an interesting roll, rather than because you said it wasn't particularly stealthy. So like, let's go with something like that.
Okay.
And I'll say it's quite a low difficulty because it's such a crowded party. So difficulty 6, let's say.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm assuming that my birthright is more of a longer term thing that won't really help in this scenario.
Oh, well, what does it do?
Blending in.
It's the changing shape
yeah.
and stuff. Or changing your face. I think so. I think it is more long term. But does it have a specific mechanic listed with it or anything?
It only says that any changeling or supernatural entities player can roll perception plus kenning to see through the illusion.
Right. Okay.
But I don't think that illusion will have.
Yeah, I think it's more. Yeah, like you say, I think you kind of blend in more, and it's like maybe not. But you know what? Let's just give you an extra bonus on it as well. So let's say it's difficulty 5.
Okay, lovely.
Let's just say that.
What was it? Manipulation plus alertness.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
It's not a usual roll that comes up, which is why I like it.
That will be 2 successes. Oh no, three successes. 3 successes.
I do like that. I don't think I've ever done manipulation plus alertness before. It's a little off from my the absolute height in my World of Darkness storyteller career of getting someone to roll strength plus bureaucracy, but still, it is good. So yeah, 3 successes. Absolutely, you lurk nearby, and this you already are getting a sense of why Whitetail might want to play a prank on this boggin. He seems very up himself, and he's talking about like the success of his business and how he put someone else out of business, and is sort of sneering at the general revelry going on, and seems to hold himself a little bit above it. You get the impression that people he's talking to don't necessarily like him, but maybe you're putting up with him because he's the kind of guy who can put people out of business. Either way, as you're doing this, you see that the elaborate plan Whitetail has concocted to get the letter to him is to have folded the letter into a paper plane and sent it flying over the tops and heads of people until it kind of like dings the Boggin in the head slightly, and he kind of like sort of reaches down to the ground, picks it up, and starts to unfold it and kind of look at it. And you see him kind of
as soon as he starts doing that, I'm just going to like start to walk over and then just like reach up, grab it, and start running.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you give me a dexterity plus dexterity plus subterfuge, probably, right?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of dice. So,
yeah, I figured it might be for your character, so there we go.
Now, my specialty of steady hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, feel free to explode your 10s then.
Okay, lovely. What was the difficulty?
Just standard, I think. He's not paying that much attention to things around him because he's far too much of a creepy horn dog.
That'll be 7 successes in total then.
Absolutely. He literally is like, meet me at, and it just kind of goes away. Describe how you're running away with this. Are you kind of like just running away with it, or are you kind of like waving it overhead?
I'm going to make sure that he knows I've got it and that I'm going in a certain direction. I've also got my tambourine in the other hand, so I'm like jangling as I run away.
Sure, absolutely. You hear a kind of cry behind you, and then the Boggin starts. I'm not even going to make you roll to outrun an older Boggin, because Boggins, for people, they're kind of almost like Hobbit-like. They tend to be short, a little portly, and kind of like he's just thundering through the crowd behind you. Come back here with that, you rapscallion! You dash towards the fountain. I'm assuming are you going to follow Whitetail's plan of going near this big fountain?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You dash near that, and as you're sort of doing so, you see like a flicker of motion behind you as you're running. And you hear a kind of and a massive splash. I assume you're going to look around at this point.
Oh, yeah. That's the reward. So, yeah.
So the Boggin is kind of thrashing in this fountain. It's the kind of fountain where there are a number of individuals from various mythologies urinating on him via the medium of water. And he's kind of splashing around in this. His suit is soaked. You can see Whitetail literally has developed. Obviously, we've come to the conclusion by now that Whitetail is a very advanced prankster in how she carries out these things, and is literally just like schoolboy Trip, like kind of on all fours, kind of going, and kind of looks over at you and goes, "Did we get him?"
I'm just going to nod over and then just like unwrap another sweet and just lean back slightly and just very happy. Yeah.
Whitetail kind of leaps to her feet, and everyone around is kind of like either laughing openly at the Boggin or kind of the more noble, courtiers are kind of hiding their laughter behind like handkerchiefs or their hands. The Boggin kind of like wades to his feet and looks around and sees the puka standing up and kind of brushing herself off near you.
At which point I'm melding back into the crowd.
Absolutely. The Boggin goes, "Whitetail!" And Whitetail literally bounces off into the crowd, kind of like prancing like a deer and making a kind of whoop, 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 whoop noise as she just disappears among the masses. We seem to have really got John with this one, so there we go.
The way you described it was like 5 years too early, her just bouncing off, making the Zoidberg noise.
See, in my head, more Bugs Bunny, but that just shows the age difference between us, John. Or Daffy Duck, actually, and more of that. But anyway. Whitetail is off in the crowd. The Boggin is drenched and kind of like desperately trying to get through the crowd after her. You suspect he probably won't, though. So there we go. Time for someone else's name to be called. for their audience with Lady Marcella. And it's going, you know what? It's lucky you blended back into the crowd, Rosin, because it's you. Voice echoes over the party calling, Rosin of Kith Pisky.
Oh, that's me. And I'm going to just like toddle along.
As you toddle into this kind of like little circle of courtiers and the Lady Marcella, she sort of spins round on one foot to look at you and sort of raises one eyebrow slightly and bends down, not to kind of like, not in a really patronizing directly over you way, but bends down slightly and kind of offers her hand and says, unless it would be too sticky.
Just like wipes it on trousers and then...
Sure. Are you kind of taking a hand or kissing it or touching it to your forehead?
No, just shaking it.
Just shaking it. She shakes your hand and says, well, it is a delight to meet you. And it seems you have already met one of our most notorious locals.
I don't know what you mean.
Of course you don't. Well, do you like my party, little Rosin?
That's very nice, yes.
Good. Don't break it too much.
Oh, I promise I won't.
Has Rosin got... She's not going to ask for one, but has Rosin got a gift?
Yeah, Rosin's got a gift. So it's more of a performance, though.
Sure.
So it's a limerick, but she's going to like actually speak the limerick.
Yeah.
With like the tambourine like accenting each like end of the line. I've actually written it if you want me to.
Please go ahead.
So yeah, she's going to get out her tambourine and then just go, our dearest Lady Marcella, whose beauty was known to be stellar, invited us through to this lovely do, so that my gift I could tell her.
I don't think that even requires a roll. I think that is precisely the kind of gift that Lady Marcella will appreciate, especially from a young child. So she's not going to patronize you for your haiku. So she lets out a peal of silvery laughter, claps loudly. The courtiers all kind of lean towards each other and go... And there's maybe slightly, some of them are slightly patronizing about it, but generally it's a good mood. And Marcella kind of leans back over and kind of reaches out and gently sort of taps you on your nose and says, we'll have to keep an eye on you.
You can try.
In a very positive way, not a negative one. She gives you one last golden smile and your time with the lady is over.
Yeah, and I skip out.
Absolutely. Let's call someone else to Marcella, shall we? And that person is going to be... there will be... Oh, I should ask, actually. Chris, what is your character's house?
The house of Allele.
Allele. So there is a voice over the party that says, Sir Inchin of House Allele.
If anyone is still near me, they'll hear a little sigh from me, and then I will make my way across to the lady.
Absolutely. As Lady Marcella sees you approach, she reaches out that hand again. Is there any kind of shake or kiss or?
There is no shake, but there is like a bow, a very kind of formal bow. But I don't, and I haven't in the past made direct contact with her.
That's sure. Well, in that case, you know what? If you haven't and you've steered clear of it before, Lady Marcella will not proffer her hand. Instead, she doesn't bow to you, but she kind of nods deeply and says, Sir Inchin, here with your books, I see. Chris? Oh, no. We're having very bad timing tonight, folks. Oh.
And I'm back.
Sorry. And you're back. Yeah. Did you, Sir Inchin, here with your books, I see?
Yes, my lady. On what has been a dark day for the city, it seems.
Yes. The library, a very terrible shame. I had spent some
shame for
time
me.
there myself over the years.
I have no idea what happened, and that makes me, as you might imagine, not at my best. Nonetheless,
I can imagine so, and yet you are here, and we can be merry against the burning of such light and such treasures.
indeed, I have a little thing for you.
Oh,
Take out
Syrinshin.
This is basically effectively a little tiny kind of scrapbook / scrap zine of little maps from like the old dungeon magazines, kind of the kind of D&D magazines they used to have. Kind of just all kind of stapled together with little notes, and it'll just be like maps to places which do not, as far as I'm aware, exist.
Well, this may tickle her mightily. Why don't you give us a intelligence plus crafts roll, please, to see how well this is put together.
2 successes. Far from terrible.
She kind of takes them off you and says, I see. Well, who knows, Syrinshin? Perhaps one day these will exist. Or perhaps they are out there already and you are yet to find them. She passes it to the small pisky next to her, who kind of tucks it away in the bag.
That is always the hope, my lady, and always the fear also.
She inclines her head to you. You get the sense that your time with the lady is over. As you are sort of, would anyone throughout this, and I'm guessing it might well be Inshin, but would anyone through this, do you think, essentially spend some time away from the main crowd?
Absolutely.
I thought you might. Shall we say it happens now then, being as we're with you anyway, Chris? Perhaps kind of like after your name is called and you have your audience with Marcella, you maybe can't find Rhea again immediately, and perhaps wander off for a little bit of space to yourself. How does that sound? Does that sound agreeable? Oh, no.
This is Inshin away from the crowd, quietly.
Oh, just quiet. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, if he's inching away from the crowd, it'll take him ages. I'm so sorry.
No, you're not.
I mean, that's something I'd expect from Chris, but from you, Matt?
From me. Speaking of Chris, do we have Chris yet? Nope.
No.
Okay. So in that case, time for Elena's. Oh! I saw her flickering. Chris. Oh.
Yep, I am apparently here.
There you go. So yeah, you find yourself a bit more secluded from the rest of them. Maybe taking a moment to have a look through your bag or your book. You're on the kind of the other side of a fountain, and kind of there's still quite a bit of noise coming from the other side, but here it's mostly the tinkling of that water and the kind of rustling of the trees that flank the chateau. Could you give me, please, a perception plus kenning roll?
That's a lot of dice. 1, 2, 3 successes. 4 successes.
Awesome. As you're looking through a book, you find your eyes drawn to the sky overhead, a sky which is now, the sun is most of the way set now. So it's a very kind of like, that deep purplish blue you get in summer as the sun goes down. And you see outlined against the sky a flight of odd shapes flapping their way west. One looks like a large winged rabbit, another like a family of smallish serpentine dragons rippling through the sky, and another looks suspiciously like some kind of mechanical pterosaur. By this time, as I say, the sun is setting. It's impossible to tell if this is some kind of intentional illusion, passing chimera of the freehold, or anything else more unusual. but it is certainly notable.
Okay, consider it noted, but I think in accordance with my kith, I'll be keeping my mouth shut about that one for the meanwhile.
That is fair enough.
I would like to. I would like to do just a little bit more busy work if you have some time for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to quickly, maybe even just ask someone if I can get into small talk conversation who the she who departed early is, and can I get a name for them?
Absolutely. Please give me a manipulation plus etiquette roll, and this is going to be difficulty 9. When I ask Chris for rolls, I don't know if he's disappeared or not.
If that's standard difficulty, that's 2 successes.
Sorry, it is difficulty 9.
Oh, 0 successes.
Okay. I'm going to say, in a way, it's not a complete lack of success, because at least a couple of people you ask about this individual in whispers, they don't give you any kind of answers, but they do give you a kind of brief, slightly fearful stare before quickly changing the subject.
Okay, so that's going to make my next thing difficult. I'm going to use my treasure, if I can, to see if I can get an account of the circumstances of their departure from the leaving.
Sure, absolutely.
So this treasure allows me to basically do Kronos 1 skill. It'll cost me a glamour because it's basically a level 1 treasure, and if I use its power, I have to put the power. It'll just disenchant itself.
Yeah.
And then other than
yeah, I've lost Chris again, folks, I'm afraid.
Just
yeah,
Kronos 1 scene and prop, maybe.
Okay, so is it effectively the same as casting a cantrip? It's not like you yeah. So you have to actually cast the cantrip. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it does. So it has Kronos 1, you say?
Yeah. So if I can get 1 success on that, it'll let me get an account of the situation back an hour, because it's a diary. It's more of a written account, so feel free to be super vague.
Right. Okay. So and you're using. Do you still have to use realms for this?
Yeah, I think it's just a normal
thing.
A normal cantrip roll.
Yeah. It's just it gives you Kronos 1. Okay. Yeah. Well, for realm, does anyone know offhand which realm is used for noble Kithane? I think it's Fey 2.
I think it would be Fey 2 for noble.
Yeah, it is. So have you got Fey 2?
No.
Well then, it doesn't mean you can't use it. It just means it's more difficult. But you're also using time and using scene essentially. So that makes it more difficult again, but you're in a freehold, which makes it less difficult. Carry on.
Of course, I'm gonna have to spend another glamour for time, aren't I?
If you don't have time, yeah. And you'll have to spend a glamour for Faye because you don't have it.
This is too expensive. I'm gonna back out of this before I dump like half my glamour pool on before the first.
No, that's perfectly
before the first inevitable betrayal.
Sure, absolutely, no problem. But good thoughts though. But unfortunate lack of capacity for execution. A voice echoes over the party. Elena of the Satyr.
I will tear myself away from the Selkie show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you find Lady Marcella. She turns to you as you approach and reaches her hand out.
I will take the hand, bow, kiss it, and say, Lady Marcella, my greatest thanks for inviting me to this wonderful party.
You are most welcome, my darling. And how are you finding it?
Wonderful. The the quality of entertainment is quite exotic.
Oh, you're referring to our coastal friends in their little swimming pool. Yes, I like to provide some kind of more adult entertainment at these things. It
Did
is
they
in our nature, after all, is it not?
did they come in especially, or were they?
Oh, I engage their services and they're being paid most handsomely for it. They are known
Oh.
for it through various courts across Concordia. Of course, many of them pay them specifically to keep it a little more innocent, but, well, as long as the childlings aren't cleared out of the tent, I think it's fine for this kind of event, don't you?
Of course, I think your troll bouncer was doing an admirable job.
Oh, yes, he's very good. Reliable.
I brought something as thanks for the invitation, if I may kindly present it.
Of course.
And I draw out of my satchel like an A4 oil painting that was largely, having not met Lady Marcella before, largely based on descriptions of her.
You've probably
from-
seen her at some point. I think that's
Um,
fair. You are
it's
also
been-
a satyr, you know.
It's true. It's been embellished somewhat from other people's artwork of her, previous portraits, accounts of her beauty, etc., etc.
Sure, absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a dexterity plus crafts roll for that, please?
Yes. And I will also say, because I started working on this as soon as I received the invitation, I'm going to spend a willpower on it because I've put a lot of time
that's
into
absolutely fine. Yeah, go for it.
So dexterity plus crafts. Standard difficulty.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 successes.
Wow.
That's a very good painting.
You kind of unveil the front of it, and scattered among the courtiers, you hear a kind of Lady Marcella is kind of silent at first and almost kind of expressionless. And she paces forwards a couple of steps and reaches out and sort of traces the edge of her profile along the painting and says, "My darling Elena, we really must commission you."
The pleasure was all mine, my lady.
This is a queenly gift. She kind of takes it and holds it, and the Pisky kind of goes, And she says, "No, this doesn't go in the bag. Not that there's anything wrong with going in the bag. Take this to the study." She kind of turns and kind of looks at you and reaches forward and just kind of traces one finger along one horn on the side of your head and says, "We will talk another time, Elena. We must get you an invite to one of the more private functions where people talk about patronage and the like."
I look forward to it.
I think that is your time with Lady Marcella done, although most productive by the sound of it.
I will kiss her hand one more time before I leave.
Wonderful. Well, then, we have all had our audiences with the lady. We have all had time to spend at court. And as the court passes by and some of the crowd has had their fill, the numbers are dropping slightly, although there's still quite a lot of people here. You know, some people came just to see the attractions or to be seen themselves and have moved on. But the event is still proceeding wonderfully, and as the night slowly cools a little bit, Lady Marcella stands on the front steps of the large chateau and announces that iced refreshments, music and dancing will be held in the main hall of Fontainebleau. Most of the crowd gathers to go inside, led by the lady herself. Is everyone here doing the same to proceed inside? Cool. In that case, you can gather. Maybe you find yourself a little more among the crowd as well. Kind of link up again and start to proceed inside the chateau. The lady and her companions are kind of ahead of you, and as you enter, you can see a lavish entrance hall laid out in soft yellows and creams, with an impressive set of stairs leading upwards. On the walls are hanging tapestries of almost photographic realism, many of which leave very little of the subjects to the imagination. As Marcella and her companions start to scale the stairs at the head of the crowd, you can hear a commotion behind you in the tail end of the crowd, just back through the doors. Not like a horrible commotion, but like certainly a little bit of noise and a little bit of motion is going on back there.
I would probably be quite nosy and peer over to try and figure out what's going on.
Sure, absolutely.
And also maybe to make sure that Rosin wasn't in the middle of it.
Rosin is not in the middle of it. It's fine.
No,
It's
I'm
definitely
next
behind
to you, like tugging on your sleeve, just going, "What's going on? I can't see anything."
Sure. In that case, yeah, anyone looking round can see the crowd moving aside slightly as the noise increases. An old boggin, not the same one as earlier for sure. He's dressed in sort of definitely more worn, practical clothing, all kind of browns and greys. He's got like a little felt hat that's half falling off his head and sort of a slightly bushy grey beard. He has a quite wrinkled, quite old for a changeling, and quite kindly face, but he's clearly not particularly being appreciated, being held by two she in chimerical armor who are not kind of frog marching him forward, but certainly maintaining a hold on him. You've probably seen these she through the evening, watching the crowd with seeming dispassion through the course of the courtly event, but clearly this is their function. The boggin is struggling, but not so much as to invite further manhandling. He's sort of crying out quite loudly, my lady, I come seeking aid." The crowd parts further and the old boggin is carried forward. Marcella steps down to the bottom few steps of this large, elaborate staircase and waves the she aside before reaching forward to catch the hand of the old boggin before he falls to the floor. "Oh, my thanks, my lady. Most gracious, but I am afraid that my urgency dictates I forego further etiquette. There has been violence, death, murder most foul, and theft and destruction as well, and more is to come." The usual curse of doing two NPCs talking to each other strikes at this point. So instead, when there's like I'll give a pause for reaction, essentially, for you to lean over and talk to each other or just detail your interest or anything else you're doing. So is anyone sort of remarking to each other or doing anything at this point?
Yeah, I think this will be my cue to whisper, "I knew there was going to be trouble. I knew it."
I'm going to heft Rosin up so that she can see what's going on.
If there's any opportunity to just sidle a little bit closer.
Sure.
Not elbowing through or anything, just...
Yeah. Well, everyone's staying quite still, so definitely kind of edging your way through a little bit is quite easy because everyone's attention is very much focused on it. So as the old Kithane rambles to a close, Marcella purses her lips and narrows her eyes. "I know you, venerable one. You're a caretaker, are you not? You're from the castle, from the order." At saying this, much of the court breaks out in whispers. That I am, milady, that I am. Barnabas of the Brush, they call me, of the Knights of the Golden Trail. At this, he holds his somewhat hunched form up with pride. A nearby she-lady titters, but he fixes her with a firm, proud stare, and she silences. Most of our order are abroad, in errantry. A questing was declared, but now there has been a crime most... Yes, Master Barnabas, a crime most foul. Murder and horror and flames and terror, I don't doubt. But lest I remind you, the Knights of the Golden Trail have made it very clear to me over many years that they neither respect nor acknowledge my rule. I am old enough to remember, Sir Harry, and his kindness and good-natured chivalry did not seem to find root among the heirs of his order. Well, she glances over, breaks off, and her eyes wander to a tapestry in pride of place on the east wall, where a towering figure in glittering white and gold armor stands triumphant, a huge sapphire blade held aloft against a clear sky. Chance to interrupt me, talk, act. You don't have to. I just don't like to go on and on with NPC conversation and
Rosin will probably just like whisper, "Ooh, pretty."
Sure.
Yeah, is there any way I can intuit what exact thing is going on in that tapestry? Because I have some theories, but I can't lock it down.
I think you absolutely can. You are a noble member of court. You're more tapped into the Cathane society here than the others. Why don't you give me again an intelligence plus politics roll, or you know what, an intelligence plus Grimaire roll, whichever you prefer. Or I'm looking at your. Oh no, that's not your sheet. That's John's sheet. So intelligence plus either Grimaire or politics to get a sense of what they're talking about, because these aren't completely unknown things to the Cathane of Cincinnati, but the others are a little bit new and fresh-faced. So maybe
I will take Grimaire and I will get 4 successes and a roll of 7 dice.
You have definitely heard of the Knights of the Golden Trail. There is definitely ongoing tension between them and Lady Marcella, so this is not surprising. And you know exactly who that individual on the tapestry is, because I will go on to describe who they are, but if Inshin wants a bit more detail about this, you can ask me after the situation and you will definitely know. For now, I will just tell you that figure is a former member of court called the Azure Knight, who was most definitely a member of the Knights of the Golden Trail. As you are making these connections, the old Bogan Barnabas says, yes, milady, I cannot make amends for others of my order who have seen fit to declare that we follow our own path, but, and he kind of indicates the tapestry, remember the many deeds of the Azure Knight. He saved the Cathane of the Fountain City and the Duchy of Buckeye many times over. He has been lost to us these past several years, but his legacy lives on. He was most fond of you, milady, and always spoke in your favor to the Grand Masters. At this, a wave of some kind of quite masked emotion crosses Marcella's face before it is swiftly put back under control. Oh, very well. You shall have aid from my court. Let it not be said that I would ignore those in need, even if they have behaved somewhat brutishly. We shall have an errantry of our own, from those yet to prove themselves in service of the Fountain City. Her eyes flicker over the crowd, and it has to be said, each of you maybe feel them rest on you for perhaps a fraction of a second more than those around you. Yes. Sir Inshin, you are a knight of this realm, are you not?
Milady.
And a scholar and a knowledgeable individual to boot. Our new prodigy, Elena. Ria, an experienced traveller from far lands. And Rosin. Well, it might keep you out of trouble. These 4. The Knights of the Golden Trail have long declared they can protect themselves. Well then, let them have aid from those humble enough not to claim the same. I'm sure they are all enterprising and wily enough to solve this bedevilment. Enough. Refreshments, dancing, music. Let our knights errant carry out their service and report back on the morrow. At a late hour on the morrow. She turns and retreats up the stairs, along with everyone else. Quite a few members of the court steal non-envious glances at you as they proceed onwards. And you are left at the base of the stairs with the sound of further merriment, of music, of refreshments being passed out up above in a room beyond, while Barnabas wringing that felt hat in his hands, looks at you with equal parts grateful hope and hesitancy.
I heave a very big sigh and put Rosen down.
Does this mean that we're not going to the party?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's disappointing, but adventure is exciting.
It is, but so's drinking and dancing.
We can do those on the way.
That's true. We can do them when we get back.
Also true.
All right, I'm in.
Well, I do apologize for putting you out of your evening, but I do tell you this is a most worthy thing that you are doing, and the Eshu lady here has the right of it. It is adventure, and that is the only thing that matters.
Oh, think of the stories we'll be able to tell when we come back for the rest of the parties.
Yes, when you come back. He tucks the kind of felt hat over his head and says, time is of the essence, I fear. Follow me.
No good deed ever goes unpunished. Let us make haste.
He leads you out from the chateau and is kind of pacing ahead of you. He's not very fast, but he is very determined, and he's making his way along the gravel path. You exit out of the freehold, through the tree, through the Highfield garden, and out past the red cap, who just kind of looks at the parade of you with some confusion. There is on the side of the road a battered old brown van parked up, which Barnabas kind of like waddles slightly over to and pulls the side of the van open and goes, go on in. There's only one seat, I'm afraid. But you'll be fine in the back.
As we pass the red cap, I'll just kind of shoot him a little glance and whisper, trouble. And then wink.
Better you than me. The red cap kind of not intentionally kicking you, but intentionally nearly kicking you, like to kick you, good riddance as you go past. The Boggan's holding open the door to the back of this van. As he said, it's all one open van inside, so you can definitely see in the back, but there is only one chair in front of the steering wheel. The other one is long gone, and the interior of the van is fairly packed. There are lots of cleaning supplies, bits of repair equipment, buckets of piping, spare wood, half-carved lumps of stone. There's also a surprising number of sweet wrappers crinkling on the floor, and a small hammock slung from the ceiling, from which a mostly dozing possum gazes out at you occasionally with a lazy curiosity. Barnabas kind of climbs in and takes his place in front of the steering wheel.
Rosen's just going to go, "Aw," and then he's going to go up to the possum.
Possum blinks at you. It seems to not hate attention, but neither is it going to seek it.
I am going to secrete myself in the closest thing to a dark corner I can find in a crowded space like this.
I mean, all the corners are definitely dark, so that's definitely absolutely fine. Is anyone else going? Well, Rosen is trying to get the attention of the possum. Inshin's secreted himself. Elena and Rhea, are you bracing yourself or?
Yeah, I'm gonna find a place to plant my hooves.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, if there's anywhere she can go that kind of gets a little bit of a view out the window out front, then that's where she'll plunk herself.
Well, maybe you can plop yourself in like the well where the passenger seat was.
If there is still space there, it's not just empty.
Sure.
So I do have a follow-on question from my stellar roll to get the stuff that you then told us anyway. What do I know about this castle?
You know that the Knights of the Golden Trail, you have heard tell of their castle, and you are aware that it is said to be in a town outside Cincinnati called Loveland, but you have never been there. So, yeah.
It's going to be a
It'll be a bit of a ride, but Loveland is also just outside northern Cincinnati, so you don't have to like cross the city or anything. But it's certainly going to be, you know, like a little bit of a ride to get there. Okay, and as Barnabas starts the van with a sort of chugging, grating noise, he sort of turns, and you know what, Rhea, you're right next to him, so he's going to kind of mainly address you, but he is talking to everyone. And just over the sound of the coughing and spluttering of the van as it kind of bounces forwards, he says, there was an intrusion, you see. A siege of sorts, I suppose, but a very quick one. More of a door battered down, I guess you could call it. Either way, they got in, cut down the poor lads and lasses left to hold the place while the masters went out gallivanting. Cold iron they used. Poor young'uns had no chance against such a skilled swordsman. Cut them off from their own glamour, he did, and struck down their bodies to boot. In my day, it was enough to send a villain back to their mortal life none the wiser. But now, accordance war gave us the High King, but it emboldened those who would wield such weapons as well. Poor young'uns. And that might not even be the worst of it. Cold iron it kills your fey self and your actual self. It is the only weapons that truly destroy a changeling. Perhaps to the point of not being reincarnated, but no one really knows. It is illegal and condemned universally among even unseelie courts.
So against such weapons, they would send accidental noble and 4 travelers.
Well, maybe, but it's not your weapons that count, young sir. It's your courage and your brains and your heart and what you do with it. If Sir Harry was here, he'd tell you that, and he'd be right.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think we need to hear some more. You said it's not even the worst of it, but yes, courage and heart.
Yes, it's not the worst of it. Well, the order, we have a display, you might say, a place of trophies, a menagerie. Sometimes monsters don't need to be slain, or they're too majestic to do so, or, well, sometimes you can't finish the deed. Sometimes you have to trick them into a cage, and that's a problem solved until another day. He, it has to be said, is looking very sketchy and apprehensive about this last statement.
Is that day today by any chance?
Might be, milady. Might be.
For goodness sake, name the damn thing so we can at least know what it might be.
You're best off looking, I suppose, but whoever broke in, and I have some idea on who they might be, but that's for later. They did their murderous work on the squires, and then they knew right well where they was going. Down and in, to the rock itself, to the menagerie, and they set them free. All of them. Even him. And all that needs writing, and monsters need catching, and maybe they will be. But right now, those fiends what did this, they need chasing and catching and stopping from killing and wreaking havoc again. That's the work of a knight, the bold and the true. And that's what we'll do. We'll do it together. I'll help you. I will. Sorry.
Why can't you call back your knights?
Well, they're on errantry. They're out and about, abroad, in the dreaming, who knows where. I've sent up a signal, a kind of fire, I suppose you could say. But it normally takes days or weeks or months for them to respond. The Order doesn't really have any enemies. I suppose we weren't thinking it through. It's not my decision to make anyhow.
I mean, I'd say probably all those things in cages would count as enemies if they were smart enough.
Yeah,
But
you
they're
said
contained, and no one in their right mind would.
Well, you said one. You called one of them he rather than it, or it didn't sound like a beast. Is it possible that he?
No. No. But I saw him. It was 2 others, but no, he can't get out on his own.
Could he have spoken?
Sorry, what are you saying? Sorry.
Can he have spoken to? Can he communicated with?
No.
Could he be?
No. Under lock and key. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. Apart from the food. Look, I'll answer all these questions when we get there, but it's just normal. In years gone past, well, the Azure Knight, he stayed here. He protected the people of the realm, but, well, we lost him, didn't we? So maybe we should have waited for someone to take his place before we all went a questing. I was here. The squires were here. It wasn't enough. The van has been kind of trundling along country roads for a short amount of time after leaving central Cincinnati, and it passes several signs for the town of Loveland. After weaving through quiet streets, you reach a patch of parkland with high trees, and round a corner to discover ahead of you what very much looks to be an entire medieval European castle. It towers over the vaguely visible buildings nearby through the trees, battlements and crenellations stark against a starry sky overhead. Piercing through your kenning, your perception of glamour, is the sense of a smaller, much less impressive castle beneath that glamour. But a castle built in the heart of semi-rural Ohio is unusual nevertheless. The van comes to a halt, and Barnabas kind of, puts it in, turns it all off, and sort of steps out of the van going, "Come on, I'll show you more."
Rhea will start to follow unhesitatingly, but so how did you get away then?
Well, I hid, didn't I? I can't fight. Not anymore. Wasn't much good at it to begin with anyway. And I thought, well, they're already dead. And if I die, no one can go get help. Maybe it makes me a coward, I don't know.
It makes you our messenger.
And a messenger's a kind of quester, I suppose. He takes a couple of steps away from the van and looks up at the castle gates with some hesitance and says, "All right, inside we go. It's not pretty in there. I'm warning you. I'll show you what I can, and then it's up to you and me to find them what done this. Just clobber those other monsters if you can. Those they set free, apart from him. I can't say much. On account of a promise I made Sir Harry, bless his departed soul. Just don't. If you see him, don't try anything. Just run, if you can." Barnabas's eyes go very far away into the past for a moment, and he almost starts to whisper. So you have to strain to hear him over the disparate bird calls and nearby gentle hum of an evening in a small town. Moving through the trees, so softly, so quietly, like he was a silent, burning flame. The lame one, they called him. But you wouldn't know it the way he moved. So many fine lords and ladies torn apart, punctured right through, swallowed whole. Only Sir Harry stood firm, with no fear at all. "Where the beast, Barnabas?" he cried. I remember his blade flashing in the torchlight. "He's here, Barnabas. He's upon us. The Khan. The Khan." I think we'll end our session there for the night.
I know that name.
So there we go, folks. That is the end of our first installment of Changeling the Dreaming. We'll have 3 more installments for you, but not next week, I'm afraid. We'll be taking a break next week, and then we'll be back, hopefully, for the next 3 weeks in a row to deliver that. Please put your comments and questions in chat, and we'll have a discussion of them. But in the meantime, let me do my little promo piece. If you check down below, you'll find a number of links to our YouTube, to our Twitch. If you've watched on one, please do check out the other. We appreciate it. There's also links to our social media, our Patreon, our Discord. If those are things that interest you, please do have a look at those as well. We are currently running, as of next week, we are currently running 3 series a week. Mondays is Warhammer, with Sam GMing that. Tuesdays is obviously Cincinnati Chronicles. It'll Changeling the Dreaming arc of it anyway. And as I say, we're skipping next Tuesday, but we'll be back the Tuesday following. And then next week on Wednesday, we return to Symbaroum, which is our big Throne of Thorns campaign. We're starting the Witch Hammer, which is the 2nd book of that. So please come join us. It's our longest running thing, and it'd be great to have you on board, as it would be for everything. We also run one-shots once a month. Our most recent one was Absurdia, which is slowly appearing on YouTube. All the others we've ever run are on YouTube. There's lots of different systems there for you to have a look at. Morkborg, Troika, One Ring, Honey Heist, The Expanse, Dune, lots of others. And our next one-shot will be sometime in August. Don't know when yet. And we'll be running the Teeth one-shot called Night of the Hogmen. And it's hard to think of a more likely one-shot name for Matt to run, I think. But there we go. So, John, I do want to talk a little bit about. I know I like to throw these Easter eggs into Cincinnati Chronicles. No, go ahead. I know I like to throw Easter eggs into Cincinnati Chronicles. There's some specific ones I want to mention tonight because they were absolute gifts when I started doing some research. But John, why don't we go through the comments first? One from Steve. How are people finding Changeling so far? Any whiplash from Wraith? I'd imagine so. There certainly is for me. How about the players?
I have been slightly eased into it by listening to Into the Odd, which has, if anything, slightly more whimsy than Changeling.
Yeah.
So it feels like I've hit the middle of the two.
Sure. Yeah. Mid whimsy.
I'm having trouble because I think the amount of change between first ed or second ed Changeling and C20 Changeling is actually really massive, because this bears, I mean, the setting is the same, but there's a lot of difference and slip in systems, which this game plays a lot more like Mage than I remember playing.
Yeah, I do think it is a bit more like Mage. I think it's resoundingly better. Because I think First Ed Changeling was very slapdash, not least because it tried to get you to buy a collectible card game in order to use your powers. But so I think the improvements, I think they are improvements, but I know what you mean, and that it feels more open like Mage does. But I'm not sure that's such a bad thing. But it's definitely, if you're used to Changeling First Ed, there's definitely maybe more changes in this than in any of the 5 core systems between First Ed and this 20th. I agree.
I haven't felt like there's been I don't feel like the weight of the difference so much yet. I think it'll probably come out a bit more. Like, I mean, and obviously there's been like overall running threads of the Cincinnati stuff. Like there was stuff here that definitely felt similar to like going way back to like Vampire, where we went in and they had I'm not sure, we were like
Elysium.
Yeah, and in Elysium, there was a similar sort of party. There's a similar kind of vibe. So there's definitely like things like that. Which is quite nice. They're kind of mirrorings and stuff.
It's almost like bookends. Like someone
planned this.
Maybe I could. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like there's stuff like that. So like it hasn't felt like a really like massive step change for me, like in the broader context. And I think like reading through some of the cosmology stuff, there's obviously like quite a lot of stuff that's different there from something like Wraith, but like there are definitely some like common themes, like the sort of you know banality, you know, as this kind
it's
of
like paradox.
approaching.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
banality.
Yeah, like I mean, and obviously Wraith has a similar thing in terms of the Oblivion and stuff. So yeah, there's definitely like some. Yeah, it's not like so crazy different, but I think as we kind of go through the story, I think that'll
there absolutely are, and it's like a lot of those core World of Darkness games are very much like different angles on the same thing. You know, it's the kind of like, you know, several blind men telling you what an elephant is sort of aspect to it, where it's like got like, you know, the Garu have the Umbra and the Mage have the Umbra as well, but it's different. And Changelings have the Dreaming and the Wraiths have the Shadowlands, and they're kind of all the same thing, but they're also kind of not. And it's like those different aspects coming together. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think the characters are going to be the things that feel most different. And so yeah, as we kind of get to sort of play off each other a bit more, I think it'll feel more different from that.
Cool. How about you, Holly?
Yeah, I mean, what Inga said about characterization, like in terms of the actual systems and how things are fitting together, it kind of works in terms of where the story is going. But yeah, in terms of characterization, this is a very different character to the other ones that I played. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I'm trying to reflect that.
Yeah, that little sequence with the letter and stuff. I can't imagine something like that in Wraith. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm trying to put the characterization of the NPCs a little differently as well. Like, you wouldn't get a character like Barnabas in, you know, in the others so much, I guess. But yeah, that's great. What else we got, John? Vancouver by night. Welcome, old allies of the channel. Greetings from a producer of one of the other Changeling games on Twitch. Hello. We are glad to have you here. There's so few of us. Night Bites book parties sound fun. Isn't that just a book club?
But like, so a book club, you'll gather around and read the same book, and then a month later you discuss it. Whereas I imagine a book party would be you just go and you take a stack of books, and like maybe some of them are your favorite books that you're trying to get everyone to read, and some of them are books that you haven't read, and you're like, someone convinced me to read these. And then you just end up arguing about, I don't know.
Well, we did once for, I think it was like a Secret Santa type of thing. It was something like that, but we did it with like people would bring in their own book, or there was some sort of book week or something, maybe, I can't remember. But you'd like wrap it up, and we did like, you know, doodles or drawings or something that kind of like spoke to the books, but it was otherwise like blind as to like what it was, and then people would pick based off stuff like that. And and so there's things like that you can totally do. I imagine some fun book related games like that.
That's cool. Ultimately, I think if like a good party where you all just sit around in complete silence with cups of tea and cake and read books is also my jam.
Also great.
Sure. So yeah, have we got anything else, John?
Yeah, we've got a follow-up on the conversation.
God damn it, the portmanteau could have been Kid Thursday. What could have been? You know, Changeling is in many ways about the loss of beautiful things. That was my intention. You know, it's all part of my master plan. It's fine.
We also have this one that I like from Steve, following the haikus but before the limerick.
There once was a changeling from yeah.
That is everything from the comments.
Wonderful. Well,
fair play. Once again, fair play for that self-referential, meta-breaking limerick, which was absolutely incredible.
The limerick was great. Well done on that, Holly. That was fantastic. So here's the thing, right? Okay. Now you may be thinking, I bet there's bits and pieces of this that Matt has been able to like crib from some reference in Cincinnati or other. And in others, like in Vampire especially, I used a lot of historical people or aspects and brought them in. And all the way through, I've used locations, like obviously the public library, which actually in our real world was shut down and destroyed decades ago, which I revived only to burn in because it was such a wonderful looking location and stuff like that. The Highland Discovery Park exists. everything I described is in it. The trains going through the trees, the pond full of like fake frogs and stuff, the little gnome trees, stuff like that. That tree, the big plastic tree with the door in it, that's in it. Okay. And now I was expecting you to think, oh, that's cool. That's it. Right. Okay. Here's the thing. Loveland Castle, the Knights of the Golden Trail, and the leader of the Knights of the Golden Trail, Sir Harry, all existed.
Oh God!
The Knights of the Golden Trail are a group of, it's a development from this guy Sir Harry. Basically, founded a kind of knightly order of Boy Scouts who all like swear like chivalrous oaths and stuff, and maintain a castle that Sir Harry, after coming back from, I can't remember if it was World War One or Two. I think it was World War One because he started building it in the 20s. He built the castle from stones the scouts brought him. It's Holly is right in our private chat here. It's not that big, but it is a castle. And it's in Loveland, called Loveland Castle. It's also known as the Castle of the Rock as well, Chateau La Roche. It's adorable, and it's real. And like when I was looking for just like weird locations, weird things around Cincinnati to incorporate into a game of Changeling the Dreaming, like things that might evoke fairies or magical stuff. And literally, the top of the list. Oh, there's a castle, and knights live in it and maintain it.
This is amazing.
What? Yeah. So there we go.
This without any spoilers on the specifics, this feels a lot like how I felt the end of the Call of Cthulhu story.
Where it's all like actually there.
Yeah, where it's like, this is not all just from well, I mean, it both is and isn't all just from the imaginations. We're just like replaying history in some kind of bizarre, weird RPG world.
So obviously, in like this world of darkness, the Knights of the Golden Trail are actual knights. So Harry was an actual a knight who led the order, and the real guy died in the early 80s, I think. So I've done the same thing that he's passed on. But yeah, what a gift for like planning this out and incorporating elements. So cool. Also a little unintentional reference because I didn't plan to put it there. It just is there in a place called Loveland. But I'm sure the more attentive of us remember there was a character in Vampire called Loveland. Would you like to know why he was called Loveland? I can't remember if I explained it at the time, and I can explain why that came to be. So that character, there was an individual who set off the Cincinnati riots in the late 80s, which were particularly horrible and bloody and racially motivated. And that individual set them off by basically a couple of people murdered someone and essentially got away with it because they were white. And people got super mad about it, and there was riots, and the guy himself vanished from custody for a while and then was picked up in the town of Loveland and was eventually like it's murky what may or may not have happened to them. In the world of darkness, they were mistakenly embraced by a bourgeois who thought they had incited a revolutionary riot, then realized they were just absolute scum and just abandoned them. But eventually, because he was a bourgeois who was more than happy to work with the establishment because he was a scummy asshole, he became favored by Prince Ludlow, and that hence becoming the bourgeois primogen. And he called himself Loveland because he thought that was a clever little reference to his past. It isn't particularly, but he's an idiot and scum. So that's what he thought. So that was why he was called Loveland. So nothing really to do with this, but a lovely little bit of synchronicity.
He was so scummy that looking back on it, despite the fact that he was my character's primogen, I remember you said Loveland, and I was like, oh yeah, like that vampire character, that Ventru bastard.
Yeah, right. Because he was basically like that. Because he got away at the end of the story, right? You never got him down. He managed to run away from you, despite someone shooting him in the back. I think. Oh, your ghoul.
Yeah,
Someone's ghoul.
he got away, but we're very sure Ludlow knows what he did, and he might not get away forever.
Yeah. And also, of course, Ludlow got the idea from Lincoln. The mysterious individual called Lincoln you never met. Lincoln's
I can't tell
kind of color, isn't it?
Which one? Is this? It's probably equal parts of both. Like how much this whole thing is like your love letter to World of Darkness versus just
Sure.
Cincinnati in general, and I guess both. But it's wonderful, Matt.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not quite sure how I managed it. So yeah, there we go. That's first episode of Changeling. Looking forward to wrapping up Cincinnati Chronicles with 3 more episodes, and looking forward to getting, like I say, something a bit different feeling in Changeling, and a nice little brighter high note to leave on. Maybe. I mean, there is him. He's out there. I wonder where he is. Maybe in a cave in a park somewhere.
Don't even start. I'm scared. I want to go home.
So there we go, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and stay safe out there. And like I say, we won't catch you next week for Cincinnati Chronicles. We'll be back the week after. But next week, if you're hankering for more telling tales, tune in on Monday for Warhammer and tune in on Wednesday for the start of our new season of Symbaroum. So there we go. Thanks. We'll see you soon.